Shalom. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and mercy to the hopeful elect, the 144,000 men that are doing this work in sincerity and in truth around the four corners of the earth. And much love to the one-third and the innumerable multitude of you believers out there. To you all, I say Shalom. I'm the brother Yeshaya, and I pray, Lord willing, that this lesson is edifying through the Spirit. All right, so it's been a lot of information going out these last few days with all the exposing of everything, the government, and all of this stuff going down, man. And Esau is really Esau is really being revealed. Hey, man, maybe, just maybe, the Israelites are right. Just maybe. Who the ones been telling you about the so-called white nation? Who the ones been telling you about the corruption and the wickedness of politicians and this government and the so-called elites? Who the ones have been openly telling you about this that you walk by every week, right? And who's on the street now? Of course, a lot of these camps don't know what they're talking about, but at the end of the day, a lot of them expose the wicked too, But the men of Great Millstone have been telling you this for a factual. All right. And so I learned something today. Call out y'all by Shemal Shai. So I ran across this. So I've been watching a lot of the E-Files. I know it's a big distraction, and there's something much worse taking place going on. And I know that's just their pomp and circumstance. That's them basically flexing their muscles, saying that we can show you exactly what we do, and there's nothing nobody can do about it. So I understand that wholeheartedly, right? But on the same end, I was like, I ran into a couple of things that was talking about this, and I was like, man, let me research this. So it's come to my attention that cannibalism is not illegal in the United States. The only state that has declared cannibalism as illegal is the state of Idaho, which I believe they give you up to 14 years of imprisonment for consuming a human being. So it's so many levels to this. So I got an article here. But you start to think, why isn't it illegal? It should be illegal to eat and consume human flesh, right? Because also something takes place. I believe it's called kuru. All right. It's spelled kuru, like Kuru. Let me see. I believe that's it. Maybe kuru. Yep. Kuru disease. It says is a rare fatal human prion disease that causes tremors, loss of coordination, and dementia, historically spread through ritualistic cannibalism, eating infected brain tissue among the four people of Papua New Guinea. Symptoms include difficulty walking, shivering, hence the name, the trembling sickness, and emotional instability, the laughing sickness, appear after long incubation periods, years to decades, and lead to death, usually within a year of onset with no cure available. So basically, you start eating human flesh and nerves and tissue, it's no turning back after that. All right? It's no turning back. You've gone down a one-way street to destruction. All right? But I got an article here that's solidifying the point. I saw many things about it, but I wanted to get this one because this is from, we talk about legalities and we bring up articles and things like that. We live in the world of, right now is the information age, but it's also the misinformation and disinformation age, where so many things out to people to lie and dupe you and trick you too. The content creation viral era where people will say or do anything just to make it popular, even if they're lying about it. But I found this on Cornell Law School. All right, this is law.cornell.edu, and it's an article here, and it's on cannibalism. It says, cannibalism is the manner of consumption of another human's body matter, whether consensual or not. In the United States, there are no laws that explicitly prohibit cannibalism per se. However, most, if not all, states have enacted laws that make it effectively impossible to legally obtain and consume human body matter. For instance, a person would likely be charged with murder regardless of consent. Even if a person consents to being eaten and ends their own life, the individual who consumes the body may still face criminal or civil liability under the laws governing the abuse or desecration of a corpse, which vary by jurisdiction. So they're trying to say there's nothing wrong with eating human body, but basically you're desecrating a dead body. So therefore, that's how it stops you from doing that. But that can be taken up. Somebody could write that in their own will. You see, it says desecration of a corpse, but you know, somebody could write that they don't mind. Okay, because if that's the case, right, desecration of a corpse, if that's the case, the United States government should not be able to do body organ donation. That's desecrating a corpse. Taking a dead body and making people be organ donors and removing organs out of their body, that's desecration of a corpse. So that's how you know that law is not an actual law. You see? That's desecration of a corpse, taking out human organs. So I'm sure somebody can write that off in their will, or they want to be consumed. There's ways around this, but Esau desecrating corpses. Esau are eating and actually unaliving people in doing this. You see? And I got it got notable cases down here. There's one that I want to get in particular, and I'm sure you already know about it, but let me get some of these verses here. This is Isaiah 9 and verse 20. It says, and he shall snatch on the right hand and be hungry, and he shall eat on the left hand, and they shall not be satisfied. They shall eat every man the flesh of his own arm. So people are going to be eating their own selves, and they're not going to be satisfied. They show you on Book of Eli, people were eating their own fingers, and he would say, show me your hands to see if they're shaking, right? Because they had kudu, right? Of those people who were eating people, they showed the signs, right? Laughing and shaking that they were consuming human beings. You see? So it is real, man. It says they shall not be satisfied. So that food that you're getting is not even beneficial because your body is rejecting that. Your body, the enzymes and proteins that are in human body, they clash with one another. So it's not even beneficial. You're just tricking your mind to think it's like salt water, right? It's way worse, but it's like salt water, right? When you drink salt water, the feel of it makes you think that you're being hydrated. But in reality, you're dehydrating yourself further because the quantity of salt inside of the water is just further dehydrating you, even though you feel like you're actually physically drinking water, hydrating yourself. So the same thing goes with kuru, right? You feel like you're eating flesh, so therefore it must be profiting you because maybe you might feel full. But really it's destroying you from the inside out, and you're not going to be satisfied with the flesh that you're consuming. You see, but people are going to be eating their literal selves, man. Now this is a different situation, but it still was interesting. As an anime, they made a movie out of it called One Piece. And they had one of the episodes on there that, man, I was like, shit. I forget what's the name of the episode, but it was about, they had a guy who was a cook, and he saved a little boy's life. They both got landed on this, for lack of better terms, like a rock. It was like a rock in the middle of the ocean. But it was tall. They didn't have access to food, anything like that. But they had one bag of food and a bag of gold and silver. So they always thought they were going to be saved, but they're out there a long time. He gave the child the bag of food and told him to go to the other side of the island. And the child came back to fight, say, I need more food. It's not enough. Man, the dude came back, he ate his whole leg because he never had food. All he had was gold and silver, so he ended up eating his own leg, man. You see, they made it seem like the dude was all right after. You ain't no turning back from that. All these stories they have about people that's eating people in deadly situations, ain't no turning back from that, But I'm gonna read this chapter, these verses, and then I'm gonna get the next part of the article. This is 2 Kings 6:25. It says, "And there was a great famine in Samaria, and behold, they besieged it, until an ass's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, and the fourth part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 pieces of silver." So a donkey's head and feces was sold for a lot of money because that's how bad the famine was under this siege, right? That's always a large part of siege war, is having enough grain and food to be able to sustain the people, the soldiers, all those types of things, right? So, but if you're on the inside and you can't get out, and you don't have access to trade, things start to get pricey so that you can survive. You see? So that great famine, so this great famine is going to return to America. These things aren't just happening in the scriptures. The Lord is going to make these things real life for Babylonians and even different parts of the world, you know? So verse 26 says, "And as the king of Israel was passing by upon the wall, there cried a woman unto him, saying, Help, my lord, O king." It's like it's something in my eye. It says, "And he said, If the Lord do not help thee, whence shall I help thee? Out of the barn floor or out of the wine press?" So the king's like, if the Lord ain't helping you out of this situation, what the hell can I do? You know? Yeah, he's in a position where he's seeing the people struggling. Like, what am I supposed to do? If the Lord not blessing you, how am I gonna help you? And he said, if the Lord Yahweh do not help, oh no, Salaki. And the king said unto her, What aileth thee? So as a king, of course, he's like, what's wrong? What's giving you problems? It says, and she answered, This woman said unto me, this lets you know the king, even in difficult situations, the king still has to rule matters. And she answered, This woman said unto me, Give thy son that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. Right? So she's basically coming up, conjuring a plan on eating their children because of how bad the lack of food is. Right? So she's like, let's eat your son today, and tomorrow we're going to eat my son. It says, so then she agreed, and it says, so we boiled my son and did eat him. Oh my God, man. And I said unto her on the next day, Give thy son that we may eat him. And she hath hid her son. You see? So, but if she was smart, she would have said, let's take both of them right now, and we'll just save your son for tomorrow. That's what she did. It should have did, but she killed her son and ate her child. And now this woman and took her child away and hid him away. Cause she like, I'm fed now. Why would I go ahead and just kill my baby? But she yiquapped, right? Children of Israel, man. And so that's sickening, saddening, and terrible all at the same time, right? It says, and it came to pass when the king heard the words of the woman that he rent his clothes, and he passed by upon the wall, and the people looked, and behold, he had sackcloth within upon his flesh. So he was mourning after that. To hear some shit like that, that's the state of your people, where women are eating their children. You see, but this is gonna return to America, man. This behavior is gonna return to America. All right, come to America. This is Lamentations 4:9. It says, They that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away, stricken through for one of the fruits of the field. The hands of the pitiful women have sodden their own children. They were their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people, right? It says the hands of the pitiful women have sodden their own children. Sodden, when you read Exodus, it tells you about soddening. So that's when you boil. That's when you boil. She said, so the hands of the pitiful women have boiled their own children. They ate them basically in the times of trouble, right? That's what the women were doing. Which also lets you know you're going to need a man and a man of the Lord in the coming time. So you don't got to eat your children. You're going to be in devastating situations. The men of the Lord are going to be taken care of. So you should want to be around that type of energy so you can be fed and not have to eat your children, right? But a lot of people are going to be slain by hunger, and it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible, man. You're going to pine away, stricken through for the one of the fruits of the field. You're going to want something to eat, and you're not going to be able to get it. So people going to start looking at their damn children like food, man. And I wanted to get this because another reason why the women are going to, you notice these stories Men will start eating themselves and things like that. But the women will eat their child. The thing they claim to love the most in the world, a woman will put a child over you in a heartbeat. You know, my babies come first, right? Yeah, they're going to come first on that menu in Jacob's Trouble, right? But I wanted to read this. This is the reason why women feel that way towards their children, too. This is Deuteronomy 28, and this is the time of a siege as well, right? But now we understand the curses and how we compare them to today's world. This is Deuteronomy 28:55 through 57. It says, so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he had nothing left in him in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in all thy gates. The tender and delicate woman among you. So this is letting you know, in times of war, people get desperate. In times of siege, people get desperate. All right. But it says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of foot upon the ground for her delicateness and tenderness. So back in the day, our women were so delicate, petite, ladylike, where they didn't even, if you had, there was no way you catch her walking outside with bare feet, man. You know, she's so delicate, she didn't want her foot touching the ground. You know, it says, her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. So you wonder why our women hate their men. You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You wonder why you don't like your men, right? This is why, man. You got that evil eye towards your husband, right? Towards your son and towards your daughter. But with the Lord's help, you can reverse this. You can pray to the Lord to take this curse off of you, where you don't feel this way towards your family, whom you're supposed to love more than anything in this earth. It says, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear. So all the children that you have that come out, you got an evil eye towards them already, right? For she shall eat them for the one of all things secretly in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gate. So she gonna eat you. See that? Even in the curses. And let you know she'll eat them secretly in the siege. You're like, what happened to your child? And he went missing. I can't find him. I don't know where he is. But secretly she ate him. You see? So this is the stuff that's about to happen in Babylon. So let me go back to this real quick. The Cornell Law School. So this is about Jeffrey Dahmer in 91. Right? It says, the most famous American cannibal is serial killer Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer. Dahmer was charged with 17 counts of murking, unaliving, spanning from 1978 to 1990. While cannibalism was part of the factual record, it was not a distinct criminal charge. Jeffrey Dahmer was convicted of multiple accounts of unaliving and abuse of corpses in both Wisconsin and Ohio, and was sentenced to 16 terms of life in prison. Jeffrey Dahmer was beaten to death by another inmate in 94. So him actually eating the people, that's not a crime, which it should be. It should be. And I'm going to tell you a big reason why as well is because Esau Edom eats people by the droves. He drinks blood by the droves. He puts it in. Look, you cannot believe it all you want. I believe this with 100% of my mind and heart, is that they're putting human meat inside McDonald's food. And it's been, what was it? Rabbi Finkelstein been said that years ago, that they take all their children, especially so-called black, Hispanic, Native American children, they put them into the food, right? And think people care? Nah. Shit crazy, man. Oh, yeah, I think I remember this one. Armin Meiwes case. This is 2001 in Germany. It says, a German man named Armin Meiwes found a willing participant through a cannibalism fetish website. I remember reading about this. The man consented to be killed and eaten. After meeting, Meiwes killed the victim, butchered the body, and froze the flesh for future consumption. Although cannibalism was not explicitly illegal in Germany at this time, Meiwes was initially convicted of manslaughter. Following a retrial requested by the prosecutors, he was later convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. But see, it was based on a man's consent. But Esau would definitely 100% find ways around this, man. But I just find it interesting that it's not illegal is because they serving it to you, right? Desecration of the body. They're grinding up humans. They're throwing them out by the boatload, grinding them up, taking them out of funeral homes and caskets, right? And serving them right to the people. We're all in burden and billions served, it say on the damn McDonald's thing. Billions of what served, right? And where all of them cows at? In cow farms, you never see more than 20 cows. Them cows supposed to look like goddamn chicken coops. How many burgers be going out around here? You know? But see, that's how they do it. It's not illegal. It's because they're serving it to you. And yeah, I believe that. You know, you ain't gotta have. You know, they saying like certain things, conspiracy theories. I believe that, man. You know, it says we're gonna eat our bread defiled amongst the Gentiles, but goddamn, man, Esau, he's hitting an all-time low. You know, so I just wanted to get a couple more here, and this is really in the New Testament to bring out some spiritual aspect to it, right? This is John 6 and verse 45. It says, "It is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of the Most High. Every man, therefore, that hath heard and have learned of the Father cometh unto me. Now that any man hath seen the Father, save he which is of the Most High, he hath seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life." Right? And so this is in red letter. So we believe in Yahweh Bashem Shah. So, right, we, Lord willing, we have everlasting life. He says, "I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness and are dead." Right? So that physical bread, they ate that, and they're dead. They're no longer here. This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. So we're going to live in the spirit by receiving Yahweh Shah, that manna, from that true manna from heaven. It says, "I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world." And the Lord died for our sins. He gave his flesh. He gave his body. He gave his blood. It says, "The Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat?" See, that is going over their heads, right? Because biblically speaking, you're not allowed to eat human, man. All right? It says, "Then said Yahweh Shah unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. As the living Father hath sent me, and I live by the Father, so he that eateth me even shall live by me." So this is referring to the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that comes with the Bible, the doctrine, and the sacrifices that the Lord was making for us. You don't actually have to eat flesh and blood in order to receive the Lord. Matter of fact, he'll give you actual food if you actually reverence him for who he is, right? But we're eating his blood, and we're drinking his blood spiritually, right? And then even when you have you know, the Pesach, or they had in churches, they will have the grape juice and the crackers, but we get unleavened bread and red wine to be symbolic of Yahweh Shai. But eating, you know, people, they had this on the movie platform where people ended up committing cannibalism because they weren't getting enough food. But they used those verses in there basically to be approved cannibalism. But the Bible is against cannibalism, right? Now, it's parts of cannibalism in the Bible, but the Heavenly Father does not approve of you being a cannibal and eating of human flesh, man. Point blank, period. You know, so this place is just utterly wicked, man. And we're learning more and more how corrupt this place is. And the Lord is uprooting this place and its wickedness, man. All right. And we're going to see it all in the full frontal very soon, man. You know, but I know it wasn't long, but I just wanted to get that out because I found it interesting that no states, it's technically illegal to do it. It's because they're feeding it to you. It's a wicked ass place, man. But hey, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, or Clark Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone to rule well. And peace and mercy to the elect. Until next time, shalom.